Hey guys, Addison Smith here with Everything Church Pro, and this is my lovely wife, Kendra, and this is part number 3 of our love series. Now, this is not a marriage counseling session. This is just love. What is love about? And love is something that we should show not just to our spouse and not just to our children, but to every person that we meet. And so we've covered a little bit in these last 2 videos and kind of catch us up on what we've been talking about.
So we first talked about what love is not, right? And we went through love is not selfish and it's all about me and it's all, I need to love myself more. We went through all of that. And then we also talked about what love is, and love is long suffering. I don't know if you want to touch on that again or what. But.
Yeah, so long suffering we talked about last time about how it's just able to take, obviously it says suffering in there, it's able to take hardships and wrongs and not just retaliate. It's long suffering. It's able to take those and keep taking them without lashing out. And our example is Jesus. Yeah. And so if you want more on that, make sure you watch our last video. But let's jump into ours for today. Today's, the Bible says, charity suffereth long, in verse number 4, and is kind. Kindness is huge. I have here that long suffering was love waiting, but kindness is love in action, right? So in our last one, we were sitting there, we were allowing people to hurt us, and our love was restraining us from, getting them back. Whereas this one, instead of just being restrained, it's love being not just not hurting somebody, but actually being good to somebody. So let's just say, since this is the more accurate version, that I was being mean to my wife, and my wife's gonna be long suffering right now, right? I was pushing her buttons, and she doesn't call me a name or anything.
I don't say something quick, I guess you can say.
She does have a quick wit, and so she doesn't use that to just demolish me, and she's long suffering. But then on top of that, she's not just long suffering, she goes out and she gets me some Cinnabon, right? Or she makes me a smashing delicious meal, or whatever it is, or she does something that I didn't even expect her to do. Now she's going from just being long suffering into being kind. And there's this story that just blew me away, and it was about this missionary whose name was Doug Nichols. I don't know if you've heard this story, but this man, he was a missionary, and he was just starting to study a language where he was going, and as he gets to this country, he gets infected with tuberculosis. Tuberculosis. He gets I can't even say it now.
Tuberculosis.
He gets it. And so he has this tuberculosis, and he's put into this sanitarium where he's not allowed to be with everybody else, and it's not a very good place to be. It's not clean, and there's a lot of sick people in this place. But Doug, since he's a missionary, he thinks, you know what, I might as well use this time to the best of my abilities, and he starts trying to hand out, information about Jesus and Bibles, but nobody would take it. And so he's sitting there and he's thinking, man, I'm going to be here for a long time, but nobody's going to talk to me. I don't really know the language very well. Nobody's going to take my books. This is terrible. This is a waste of time. But then, as he was sitting there and he was in this place for weeks, every night he'd wake up about 2 o'clock in the morning just coughing, unable to stop because of his tuberculosis. And one night, as he woke up and he was coughing, he saw this man across the way. It was an old man, and he was sitting there, and he was rocking back and forth, just rocking and rocking and rocking. And then afterwards, he just laid back and just cried and bawled his eyes out. And he had no idea what was going on, but he was just, this old man was just too weak to get up. And so Doug went back to sleep that night, but the next night he woke up coughing about the same time, and he saw that old man again, rocking in his bed. And so Doug, he got up, and they went over to him, because the night before, when everybody woke up, they realized why he had been rocking. He was rocking because he had to get up and go to the bathroom. And he was so weak he couldn't get out of his bed to go to the bathroom. And so he went in his bed, and it was terrible. The whole place stank, and this is terrible because everybody, when they woke up, they knew who it was. And they were laughing at him, and they were mocking him, and they came over. One of the nurses even smacked him in the face because he did this, and they had to go and change this. And nobody was kind to him. And that's why the next night when Doug woke up, he went over to the old man and he picked him up in his arms. And he said he was just basically skin and bones, so it wasn't hard to do. And he took him to the bathroom, let him go to the bathroom, and then carried him back to his bed and laid him down. And then after he laid him down, the man grabbed his face and said in his language something like, "Thank you," he thinks. And he went back and he went to sleep. Doug says that the next morning, he had a line of people at his bed wanting the information that he had. They wanted the tracts, and so many people got saved just because, and he says this, I just want to read you his last thing he says, "Now what did I do?" He says, "I didn't preach a sermon." He says, "I couldn't even communicate in their language. I didn't have a great lesson to teach them. I didn't have a wonderful thing to offer. All I did was take an old man to the bathroom, and anyone could do that." Friends, we don't have to be a spiritual giant to be kind. We don't have to be some huge speaker or someone who's been saved for thousands of years to be this type of Christian. And so love not just is long-suffering, love is kind. Is there something that you see that you would be like, man, this is something that I know I need to grow in?
I think it just, in that story, I mean, I think if you're not convicted by that, if you're not like, ooh, wow, you're pretty hard, because it just shows how simple kindness can be, but what an impact it can have. And so just anything, think about it today. Did you see somebody drop something and you go over and just help them pick it up? And it's like, oh man, have I been that person? Have I been that kind person? Or have I just been the other people that just get upset, oh, it's not a big deal, whatever, And
that's a big question, because I wonder how many people won't be in heaven because we're not kinder than we are. How many people just aren't interested in our churches, aren't interested in Christianity? At the beginning of the story, nobody wanted the tracts, nobody wanted the books. But once he was kind, it was an attraction. I believe it was Alexander McLaren, this is off the top of my head, who says, if you would win the world, he says, oh man, what does he say? If you would win the world, I wish I had that quote. And now I'm gonna beat myself up. He says
you can insert it right here.
Yeah, I'll insert it down at the bottom. He's like, win the world, don't break it, or warm it, or be kind, something like that. But it was super good. And you're gonna read it below, and it's just gonna change your life. But it was so true and so good. Gandhi said this, "I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ." Friends, may we be kind. And so if you have not joined the challenge already, the Live This Love Challenge, I challenge you really to join this and download the PDF below, which will have all of these definitions on a piece of paper that you can print off, put somewhere you'll see. And the challenge is this: every single day for the next 3 months, read through this list of what love is and attempt to work on just one aspect that day of this love. And let's see what God does in our hearts and in our lives over these next 3 months, as every day we just read through the list and work on, and let the Holy Spirit work in us one of these traits of love. Is there anything you want to add?
Just today, be kind.
Yeah.
Do something. And I think, especially as a Christian, sometimes we think when we're talking about, people and trying to share the gospel and tell them the good news, sometimes you can be a little harsh about it or whatever, but you can still be kind to people while you're telling them and tell them what we're talking about in love, And I hope that this whole series, you see that you still can love people and show them. Because, it's just that story, I love that story. It just shows you what kindness can do and how many doors can open after being so just kind. And little things. And I'm sure if you open your eyes today and look around, you will see many opportunities to be kind to one another.
And I love that today, focus on being kind, and not just to people who you like.
Yeah.
The people you don't like, be kind. Well, I hope this was a blessing to you. Again, I always recommend go, and if you want to know more about what my wife's doing, she likes to do mommy tips and different things on her Instagram. Go check out her Instagram. It's Kendra Smith, but I think it's at Addison_Kendra28. And so make sure you check out her Instagram, and thank you again for doing this series with me. It's nice to have a lady on and not just all this man stuff. And so I'm so thankful to have my wife on this with me. And if you like having her on here, make sure you leave a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed so you don't miss our next video in the Love series. All right? We will see you guys next time.